everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Drive by Gigi. That's me. This is a very quick comparison video between the Mac Mini, which I have owned for 20 months, and whether or not it's worth me upgrading to the Mac Studio. So sit back, relax, and get yourself a drink. Right. The Mac Mini. Okay, so I bought mine 20 months ago when I was just starting out on my own business, and I didn't know how successful my business would be, so I didn't want to spend too much money, and at that time there wasn't a Mac Studio. So anyway, I bought a Mac Mini. It cost me £1,299 here in the UK, and it was the new M1 chipset. Now, the cheapest M1 you can buy in the UK is £699, and the most expensive one is £1,799. I bought my one to last me 5 to 10 years for personal use, business use, and I wanted to get into doing YouTube videos and editing stuff and things like that. So it had to be able to do that. So that was the reason why I chose one. Now, 5 things why I like this Mac Mini. First of all, it's tiny. It's really small, and it sits on the corner of my desk really nicely. It's a 7.7 inches square. It's a lovely looking thing. It's lovely and solid. That's the first thing. It's tiny. Number 2, it's quiet. It never makes a noise. The fan never comes on. Doesn't matter what you're doing to it. It just keeps working away behind the scenes, calm as anything. The fan is dead quiet. My old desktop PC was so noisy compared to this thing. You know, this thing doesn't even make a noise. So 2 really good things. Thirdly, it can power 2 high-resolution monitors. It actually says it will power a 6K monitor via USB-C and a 4K monitor via HDMI 2. Now I only have one monitor, which is a 5K monitor. It powers it absolutely fine, so that's fine for me. And basically number 4, it works really well with your iPhone and your iPad. So if you're taking pictures on your phone, via iCloud, you can access photographs and videos between all 3 devices. So I like that. So you can airdrop in between all 3. That's also good. And then number 5, if you buy the Apple keyboard and trackpad, they integrate perfectly. There's no wires, and obviously you can charge them directly from the Mac Mini using one of the USB-C ports at the back. So that's great. 5 awesome facts about the Mac Mini. What don't I like about the Mac Mini? Well, not much, but there's a few bits. First of all, the storage. Now I opted for the 1 terabyte storage, thinking that would be sufficient. But just to break it down for you, the Mac operating system is 15 gigabytes. The system data is 17.5 gigabytes. Applications is 23 gigabytes. And my YouTube library is 400 gigabytes. So in total, I've got 455 gigabytes of memory being used, which really only leaves me with 500. And I could easily fill that, and I have filled it with no problem at all. When you think a YouTube video in 4K is probably anywhere from sort of 10 gig to 15 gig edited, and then you think how much footage you have in the background, it doesn't take long to fill it up, and you do have to keep on top of it. So if I was to do it again, I would buy more storage for sure. It's not enough. And I don't like having external hard drives lying around. I would prefer to have the memory inside the machine. So that's a bit of a negative, not really big enough. And on the Mac Mini, you can only have up to 2 terabytes, which is a shame. It struggles, if I'm editing, it struggles with files higher than 4K. In Final Cut Pro, and it basically either crashes Final Cut Pro and I have to turn the computer off. It either drops frames while I'm trying to edit it. It comes up with a message and tells you that. Now, it's not often that it does this, and typically I film in 4K 60 frames per second, and it's never a problem. But as soon as I start to move up to trying to do 2 streams of 4K or one stream a 4K and a 5K GoPro video. Ooh, it struggles a bit. So it's got limitations, and I've got the 16 gigabyte of RAM version. So, you know, it's the best version you can buy. And there's a lack of a mini SD card slot for my GoPro. When I film virtually everything on my phone or my GoPro, and they are not the SD-XC card slots, and they're the mini SD card slot, and there's no card slot. So I have to have an external card reader, which I have and I had for many years, which is USB-A type. And there's not enough ports, really. That's the other thing. If I wanted to have a microphone for doing live streams, I won't have any space for it. Yeah, so at the moment I currently have my monitor coming out one of the USB-C ports. I've got a charging cable, which is USB-C to Lightning for my phone. I've got a card reader, which is USB-A, and I've got I don't have a webcam yet, but I'm probably going to buy one. So that's going to go out a USB-A, and the headphone jack, which I never use. But that pretty much uses up everything on the back, and it means that I don't have space for a microphone because I've got the card reader there on the USB-A port. So that's an issue. You can get around it, but it's not ideal. So there we go. That is the Mac Mini. It's been great. It's not perfect, but if you're not editing, honestly, you won't need any more. But I would not buy the base models. I would buy the £1,300 version, which is your 16 gigabyte of RAM and then 1 terabyte of storage. I think you're going to need those, especially over the years as they keep updating the software. So there we go. That's the Mac Mini. Now going to dive into the Mac Studio. Apple are very clever, and I do like them as a brand. I think they are miles ahead of the competition. One of the things I like about the Apple website is that you can compare all the different models, whether it's an iPhone, a Mac, or a laptop. But they also have these augmented reality sections, so you can actually go and have a look and see what any device looks like in your environment. Now, so I've done that. So just to show you the different size between the Mac Mini and the Studio, you can see on the screen now that it's double the height. It's got the same footprint, so it's exactly the same square. It's just double the height. Now, it's not a huge problem. It would mean I'd have to hire my monitor a bit to fit it underneath. I don't think it looks quite as good as the Mini, if I'm honest. The Mini is a very little discreet box, sits out the way, and you'd never know it was there. So this one's a bit more intrusive onto your desk. You could probably mount it underneath if you wanted to hide it out of the way. But yeah, it's good. It shows you where it can fit on your desk, how it looks, and the size comparison. So yeah, very good, Apple. You've got some good. You're not perfect, but you're ahead of the competition. Right, moving on to the Mac Studio, the new beast from Apple. So there's 12 ports on this device. You got on the front, you've got 2 USB-C ports, Thunderbolt 4. I'm not really sure what the difference is, to be honest. And you got 1 card reader, which is an SD-XC card slot built in, which is no good for me. I use the micro one, so that's a bit annoying. And then on the rear, you've got 4 USB-C ports, Thunderbolt 4, however you want to call it, 2 USB-A ports, 1 HDMI port, and 1 headphone jack. So there's loads of ports. Now, the cheapest Mac Studio is £1,999 here in the UK. That's with no options, and that's the M1 Max chip. Okay, the most expensive one is £3,999, and that's the Ultra chip, the M1 Ultra chip, and that again is with no options. Now, if you want to max out this Ultra chip, you're going to spend £7,999. So it's a lot of money. My choice would be the M1 Ultra chip if I was to do this again, which would be it would cost £4,399. I would go for the 2 terabyte storage, internal storage. I would have the 64 gigabytes of memory, unified memory, 20 core CPU, 48 core GPU, and the 32 core neural engine. And just to compare that to my Mac Mini, which has 16 gigabytes of unified memory, 1 terabyte of internal memory, it's got an 8 core CPU, 8 core GPU, and a 16 core neural engine. So that's quite an increase. So it's going to cost me, if I was doing this again, it would have cost me another just over £3,000 to buy the Mac Studio with the Ultra chip. But for that, I would get double the storage, 4 times the unified memory, double the CPU performance, 6 times the GPU performance, and double the neural engine performance. So I think for me and what I do, that would be my choice. I would really struggle to spend any more money than that. If the business was going well, then you could probably justify writing off 8k to help save some of the tax costs for your business. So that is what I would do. However, it's not perfect, the Mac Studio, and this would really annoy me. They still don't. The Studio still doesn't have a micro SD card slot. Apart from that, it's pretty good. I've gone through all the slots, and all I can see is that there would be one spare USB-C port. So I would have a webcam and a microphone in both of the USB type A ports. I would have to have a card reader in one of the USB-C ports. I would have a charge cable in one of the USB-C ports. I would have 2 monitors in the other 2 USB-C ports, which means I would have 1 spare USB-C slot on the front, and then maybe I would have a USB-C to USB-C charge cable in the front for when Apple update their iPhone to maybe a USB-C port. So yeah, so I would pretty much use everything they've got, and the Ethernet port at the back, I mean, I never use that. I just use the Wi-Fi 6 is fine. I've got the router in the office, so everything for me is super fast. Don't even give it a thought about using a USB an Ethernet cable. So there we go, that is the comparisons, and if I was doing it again, that's what I would do. So I hope you found it useful. Remember, please subscribe, and there'll be more content coming your way very soon.